Hi, this is Renee, and welcome to my channel, A Lot to Tell. When I was growing up, I really didn't know about racism, how people of my race or people of color were treated. And my mom never discussed any of these things with us, so I don't even know what she possibly even went through. But again, I said I was born in the year of the Civil Rights Act. Telling my age, but I don't care. I have no idea what my mom went through. I have no idea what my grandparents went through. But maybe my great grandparents and their children and families were a part of slavery. I had to watch a lot of things to find out what was happening and why it seemed like we were segregated for a reason. You know, blacks on one side, whites on the other side. And I finally saw this show, but only saw bits and pieces because we couldn't afford a TV at that time. And it was called Roots. I still didn't really understand it, but somebody gave me the nickname Kizzy. Didn't understand that either. So as I got older, I noticed a few things, but I never really subjected it towards me. One of the best movies I've ever seen in my life was called The Ten Commandments, and we actually saw it at a theater. My mom let me leave out during intermission to go use the restroom, and this person who was not of my race saw me come out that restroom but thought I came in the theater and didn't pay. So he grabs me by my arm and tell me I have to get out. And what I said to him was, I'm telling the truth. My mom is inside with my sisters, and I could take you to her now. He did not listen to me. He put me outside that theater. And I was scared to go in, but I was worried what my mom might be thinking because it was taking me too long to come from the restroom. Finally, I thank God for the opportunity that came where nobody was watching. And I ran back inside, and I told my mom what happened. When my mom went with me to the front desk to find this person, that person wasn't there. That was probably my first time ever going through something that horrible, because sometimes not knowing things can hurt, and sometimes knowing things can hurt. Still time passed, and I'm looking at these documentaries where during the civil rights movement, people were told to get out of restaurants. They were not selling to coloreds, or either they had to go through the back door. They had the sit-ins. They were sending dogs on them, water, beating them, slapping them. Even the women dragging them by their hair, even while they're screaming and howling. And then when you think it's not going to get any worse, it does. Where I mentioned before, where people not of my color or race were allowing their kids to show up to see people get hung by a rope, or either being burned alive, and just watch it with no remorse, no sympathy, no pain, no nothing. But I was told we are the ones who are the inhuman beings. Then you find out that we've been used a lot for guinea pigs, for experimentations. A lot has been happening. And still, for some reason, I put it in the back of my head. I really hadn't thought about it. I had to go through a lot of things that God showed me while I was with my abusive husband. And when I wasn't with him, what was happening around the world that I didn't know about. I mean, my husband kept me locked up in the house so long, I didn't really know what was going on outside except for the news I got sick and tired of hearing all day, every day, early in the morning and at night. I wanted to hear good things for a change, not always bad things, but that's how the media is most of the time. When I think about what my husband did to me, I don't know what his trauma was when he was growing up. And a lot of men that I looked at on TV that were romantic towards their wives, they took care of their families. Everything seemed good and dandy, and I always thought that happened in real life. I've heard about this slave mentality. And when you think about it, back in the day, our ancestors were very scared. They couldn't look into these people's eyes. If they see them walking towards them, they had to move on the opposite side of the street. Animals, less than human beings, less than second-class citizens. Regardless, we are human beings, and I still don't understand how that happened, why it happened. And the laws were created by people that said that black and white should mix, as they called us, the N-word on this side, stay on that side. You're only good for cleaning my house, taking care of my children, cooking my food. And when I get mad with you, I will whip you less than an animal and show you who's the boss. So did any of this mentality stuff get into our men earlier on in those times where they became abusive to their wives, thinking that they can make them be submissive? I told my husband a long time ago, when we were together, you don't have to beat me or hurt me for me to love and care about you. I'm not a child, and I don't need a dad. But that's the way we keep control over people. Mind games, playing with our minds, playing with our hearts. I don't know if that's a reason to say that's why they were affected and why they treat women like they do now. Because I have people of my own race that'll mistreat me worse than a person that's not of my race. As long as they're up there at the top, they ain't worried about you catching up with them. As long as you're at the bottom, then they feel like they have some superior attitude and authority over you. I didn't give you that authority. So you're not going to treat me like that. I've had enough. The reason why I'm doing a lot to tell, I've had enough. What happened to my mom? What happened to my sister just recently? Killing us legally. And it's like we can't do nothing about it because the laws protect everybody but us. I didn't even mention about my niece being dragged on dragged on the freeway. They listed her as a Jane Doe. And I didn't know that was my niece until an inspector showed up at our house and said it was her, that they dragged her on the freeway. Me, I thought she was still alive, but she was brain dead. That was an officer that was supposed to stay on the case. I even gave him a tip and said, somebody called me on my phone asking me, is my niece okay? And when I asked this person's name, they hung up in my face, but that phone number was still in my phone. And I called this person that was supposed to handle the case, gave him the phone number. That's been 2010. We in 2026 now. One less black person to worry about. I don't have to do my job unless I want to. We're the ones that's left hurting and abused, mistreated. Nobody really gets to know us because we're not supposed to learn how to read, write. Well, back in them days, the X was the signature, I think. You get caught reading or learning anything, you already know what they did to them. So now I'm reminded of this all again just by watching a few movies. One of them is called The Help. Very doggone good movie. May be based on real life, may not be. But here we go again with black people being maids, doing whatever they can. The only thing is they're not being beaten. They're just being chastised, which is almost the same mentally. Then I'm looking at 12 Years a Slave. I looked at it one time before and I got out of it and didn't want to finish it. But I restarted on it again. When you imagine the whips across a person's back to beat into submission and obedience. Do what I say do or this happens. Or like in another case, the lady lost her kids. She said, I'll be your slave for the rest of my life and do everything I can for you. Just don't separate me from my children. That killed her and hurt her worse than being dead. when they did that. And then I guess the mistress of the house said, oh, don't worry about them. You'll forget about them in time. Did you forget about your children in time? Because your children ain't gone. They still there with you. It's just the people of color taking care of them for you. I am not a racist. I dated somebody that was not of my race. And when this person died, okay, he lived with me. He was on my insurance. We used the same address. But when he died, I was the last person they contacted. They contacted his family, even though we were together almost 5 years. So the person that I loved and cared about died on a Saturday. I didn't find out about that he had died until on a Monday when his mother called me. Or rather, she called me, but she didn't tell me. She told one of my daughters because she just knew that that was something I couldn't accept. I never heard of grief. Well, I've heard of grief stricken before, but that was the first time I think that it happened to me that bad. You see a person one moment and the next moment they're gone. And then my son, my oldest son, was born in the 80s. And I never really looked at his birth certificate. But I had to look up the race they called him, which is Negroid. Negroid. I didn't know what that was. I mean, I had to research it and look it up. I'm used to the N word or colored or black or in this day and age, African American. Don't forget when the year 2000 came out, they had us fill out the census and they didn't have on there about black. It was just African American, and they got mixed. They got the African Americans that just came to this country, green card or not, mixed up with those of us that were actually born and raised here. And at the time, I was trying to be funny. I said, oh, they were just putting us back in our place, letting us know where we came from. Now, my ancestors probably came from Africa, but I am a United States citizen. I was born and raised here. And what was the other one that really just knocked me off my socks? Amistad. And what they did to those that wasn't so pretty or in good shape. State legislatures, and I'm going to keep stressing it, are the ones who come up with laws and rules, regulations, penal codes, chapters, behind closed doors, and next thing you know, it's out there in the open, and you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, I didn't know that existed. Who said they put that in force? They wrote up the bills, and Congress went ahead and passed them. We live in the South. I heard a long time ago that people that was free didn't even know that they were free. They were still working for these people because these people never told them, you're free, you can go, you can leave. You think a lot of people might be mad about that and have come up with other ways to oppress us and depress us? People of color, the poor, black. How much more are we going to allow them to do before we back in slavery again? With new rules and laws created by Texas legislatures to tell us we can't go out at a certain time of night, you know, like they did COVID. When COVID was around, you couldn't be in a group with more than 10 people, which I understand for the safety's sake, but still, I didn't believe it was to that extreme. And curfew. We keep letting them do this in the South. We're going to be like in a dome, not allowed to go out of it. Former Governor Rick Perry said years ago against former President Obama, you will never run Texas the way that you run the United States. It's like we're separate, segregated. Nobody touches it. Nobody does this. Nobody does that. Even the Texas Supreme Court seems to be afraid of Texas. because I put in some of my complaints to them and they haven't responded. The thing is, I have so much proof. Didn't shred it, didn't tear it up, none of that. Because I never know when I might need to pull up something. Because I was tired of people saying, oh, I didn't say this. Oh, I didn't do this. I got a paper trail. Now some courthouses won't even look at an email dated at a certain day, certain time, certain year, and look at it as proof. But if it was the other way around, that proof would be used against me. So where's the fairness? Where are my constitutional rights? I don't want to be in slavery. I suffered enough of that when I was with my husband, where I couldn't go outside, couldn't do anything, couldn't talk to anybody. Now that God has given me my freedom, nobody's going to put me in their chains. But they're already doing it. They're just doing it in a sneaky way. And the sneaky way is that when they create these laws, that's abuse of power to say, hey, let's write this so they can't do this. Let's do this so they can't do that. And because it was approved, stamped and approved, what can we do now? I'm praying to God that there are a lot of you out there that have already experienced this. It is time for a change. And someone asked me a question, how can we change corruption when it's been going on for I don't know how long? That is a doggone good question. Because I had to learn about corruption and all of that, becoming a pro se litigant. Because I didn't think none of that mess existed. And when you look at the movies, it's all about corruption and cops doing this and cops doing that. These people are not writing these stories for nothing. They know this is going on, but you'll write it as fiction so it won't pertain to no particular person and you won't get in trouble for it. I have to speak for my mom, justice. I have to speak for my sister, justice. I have to speak about what happened to me for a doctor that's allowed by the Texas State Dental Board to use me as a guinea pig without a permit for anesthesia and just ruin my mouth on the inside. But because they know they are protected by these government and state offices, it's legally giving them the right to do whatever they want to us, the poor, the blacks, the people of color, African Americans, and basically saying we can't do a damn thing about it because now it's legal. Because back in the day, it really wasn't legal. They just had our ancestors as slaves and doing whatever they wanted to them. But when it became national and people started stepping in and saying this and saying that, now it's undercover. It's hidden behind the scenes. Well, I'm going to fix it where you can't get a car. Because I've already opened up organizations that'll mess with your credit score. I'm going to fix it where you ain't supposed to have a house better than me. You ain't supposed to have nothing better than me because you're this color. People of color. I'm going to say it again so that nobody misunderstands me. I am not a racist. There have been a lot of people not of my color that stepped in for us a long time ago, even got killed for us, fighting for righteousness and justice because they knew we were being treated unfairly. In this day and age, a lot of people just don't care. I walked into a store one day, believe it or not, and there was these two gentlemen coming towards me that were not of my color, my race. And I'm pushing a basket, but they was just walking towards me. And so my basket is like in the middle between these two men. And I kept going. And the way they were staring at me, I think they wanted me to move to the side. They didn't care what side I moved to, long as I moved to the side. And I just kept on pushing my basket. And they moved out of my way. I'm not trying to be a rebellious person, not trying to start a war. None of that. It's all about peace and people coming together as one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. Isn't that what it says? Then why am I so confused?